But that combination of stone and wood and, you know, West Australian timber and stone together, I mean, that's where Jarrah came from. Jarrah is just the architectural abbreviation for jar, and rock is rock. And that's what this table is, a Jarrah rock table. And I haven't actually named it yet, but I mean, what do you give a table like that a name? It's an outdoor table, probably ancient is the word that springs to mind. Ancient outdoor table. This is another great little commission I've just about completed, not quite, but I'm nearly there. Another fantastic old customer of ours that wanted an outdoor table that wouldn't blow away in the wind and would need little to no maintenance for the top. So, you know, you can't beat granite for no maintenance for an outdoor table because it's just so resilient. And the top on this weighs about 120 kilos, so it's not going to blow anywhere. But the flip side of that is it needs a really strong base. And he didn't want a big table, so it was only going to be 1 metre square. So we had to try and do something where the legs weren't in our way, but it had that strength. So I've been playing around with these crisscross bases quite a bit in the last 2 or 3 years. And we usually use them on our big burls because they're, you know, that geometry sort of juxtaposes against the organic shape of a burl. Normally we wouldn't taper this leg, that would be 90 mil all the way through. But being a small table, I wanted to get rid of some of that leg. So what made this one tricky to make was they're tapered this way. So essentially we end up with 2 crosses like that. We've got to half lap those together and they are 90 by 90 thick. And then I've set them up on a jig and I've put them through my wide belt and created a taper. So they taper that way and they taper that way. So always when I make something like this, I do a full-size drawing and then I have to make a few patterns up to work from. So that long pattern there, you can see it's tapered from 95 mil down to about 45, I think, at the bottom. So that's one of those legs there, that way. So there's essentially like that. You'll probably just see that. So they're my 2 legs. So there's a crisscross like that with a half lap through the middle. So that gives us our taper going that direction. And then to get the taper the other way, I have to then think of that cross this way. So that there is actually the line of that taper through that crisscross once it's put together. And I've got some construction shots, you'll see what I mean there. But so that they are tapered like that from top to bottom, from that 90 down to 45 at the bottom. And you can imagine that does create some interesting joinery issues. There's a lot going on at that junction point. So as well as this really strong base, we've got to bind this together with a cross here. So these are all double dominoed through there. So I make that piece up first and then I have to create this frame around the outside and cut it in. So this was quite tricky to glue up because obviously that had to be dominoed together, and then there's one going this way, and then 2 this way. So you can imagine you've got to put them all together and then squeeze them up, and then it's locked in position. So what that gives you is a really strong frame for the top. And again, because we're playing with stone here, you can't afford to have this frame or base fail because it could break someone's foot or leg. So yeah, by building a frame with that kind of strength for the granite to sit on, it just makes it very safe. You're never going to really see that, but once the table's put together, but it's a very integral part of the design. Yeah, nice. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So this actual granite is very, very, very old, as granites are. Probably 3 to 4 billion years, like right back from the beginning of the planet. And it was when the magma, or the molten centre of the planet, was all molten rock. and this granite's come out of the magma chamber, and there's been folds in the magma, and water's been trapped in parts of. This is the theory of many geologists, I'm telling you this. And water's been trapped in those folds of the magma, and it's created little chemical reactions between the water and the molten magma, and that's what's created all these orbits. It's called orbicular granite. So they're just all little orbit-shaped forms that are all through the matrix of this stone. So, you know, you kind of look at it and think, oh, they're fossils, but they're not actually fossils. They're little chemical crystallisations that occur. It's a phenomena. There's only about maybe half a dozen documented finds of orbicular granite around the world. And this one is from Mount Magnet up just east of Geraldton. And it was quite a reasonable, it was a big size deposit of orbicular. Like in some cases, I think in New Zealand, you know, the case over there, it's literally just 3 or 4 orbits in a rock, whereas this is a body of the stuff. And it's got out of they get it out of the ground by drilling holes and then putting product in there that expands, and it kind of cracks the blocks out. So with the pieces I've got, they're basically like that shape is how it came out of the ground. And I haven't wanted to play with that too much. So you can still see that's where all the drill holes were. And that was just this one here had an end that stuck out here, but these people wanted a square table. So it's pretty square. This piece here is slightly on an angle because that was just the angle of the block. But it's just amazing stone. It's fully prehistoric. And you can look at it for hours and see different things all the time. It's a really unusual stone. So quite rare. So a pretty cool thing to have outside, and of course, it can sit on your veranda forever. Well, through our lifetimes anyway. I mean, it's 3 billion years old, it's not going to rot away. And quite often I'll just leave these really rough around the edges, and I was originally going to do that, but in the end I polished them, because what it does is it helps you see the shape of those orbits as they go through the stone. And until you polish them, you don't get the full picture of that. So by polishing these edges, I initially had to grind it to get all the sharp pieces off. And then I have diamond encased little pads. I think there's 8 different grades. So I've had to do 8 lats of this table, basically rubbing every single part of that. So it's quite I would have spent 8 hours on the grinder just polishing the edges of this. It's quite a bit tedious, but the result's beautiful, and it's amazing that it's just polished rock. This is where there's been a split in that jelly-like magma, and another granite matrix has squirted up through it, but it's welded back together, so it's like that's a natural inlay of a different stone. And you do get some little hairline cracks and fusions in it. There's a lot going on this stone. And that's why it's got to be really well supported. That's why it's got a full frame underneath it, because if you just support it here and here, you know, you'd have to put fiberglass or resin or something underneath it to strengthen it. But this way, it can just sit on that frame and it'll literally just last forever. So it does make a good outdoor table, and probably a pretty good talking point. After a few beers and a few wines, you're going to pontificate for hours on what that stone has seen in its lifetime of 3 billion years plus. So another really great little commission that has been a lot of fun to make. And I guess I just feel super lucky to have customers that want these sorts of things created, because I get to have fun and make nice things. They get something that's unique and different, and the whole process is pretty enjoyable. So yeah, there she blows.